It's a beautiful day in New York City today, and the temperature outside is really pretty. And I came across a little reading that allowed me to reflect a bit about New York City back in the late 70s, early 80s, downtown in the Village, by the pier, down by Christopher Street in that area. The reading reflected what could be called and what is called as acting out places. Acting out places like George Michael, if he was still alive, he could talk to you about this. Acting out places like public bathrooms or restrooms. Certain parks are acting out places, acting out for sexual connection. The reading talked about acting out places and the shame about these acting out places, that a sex addict could be prone to visiting and acting out in these places, acting out on what could be called sexual addiction, or it could be sexual liberation or sexual expression. Sexual expression, there's nothing wrong with sexual expression, nothing wrong with sexual liberation. And sexual addiction, well, it's an addiction, and a very harmful one, like any addiction, like alcohol, like the food addiction, like a drug addiction. But sexual addiction is pretty weighted. So what is this video about? Well, it's about myself being there at those times, being at the pier in 1979. There was the warehouse, it was called. And it was a building that was ready to fall apart into the Hudson River at any moment. Yet it was an abandoned warehouse where a lot of men were having sex with each other. And for whatever reason, being out in the city this morning to grocery shop and having that reading the reading and reflecting on acting out places, there was something very beautiful, though, about the city back then, in that warehouse, in that building, in that section of Hudson River, of the pier, which is now Hudson River Park. It's all beautiful and clean, and it's all Disneyed out right now. But it was really beautiful back then too, with the graffiti and the artwork and that abandoned, dilapidated building that was ready to fall into the river at any moment, and the rooms in that warehouse, and the long plankway that you would walk. It's like a death walk. Any moment a plank could just give and you'd fall. I don't know. There was just something really exciting about that, the feeling and the building and the, I don't know why I've always been so drawn to like abandoned buildings like that. Could be like a shooting up gallery place, but there's just something, I don't know why I'm like the seediness of it and the aging of the building, and it just there's something beautiful there. And when my friend took me there, I was a very closeted 19, maybe 20-year-old, very overweight, didn't know which way was north, west, south. I was not gender correct yet. I was just really shut down sexually, shut down emotionally. I was really into my food addiction. I was overweight. I was very, very, very depressed. My friend who took me was very vibrant and free and liberated, and he certainly enjoyed those places. I'm grateful for what he showed me of the queer life, of well, more of the gay life back then, for gay men, the theaters that were acting out places too. He took me there. I don't know, there was just something so beautiful about the open sexuality of the time. And sad too, because, right soon thereafter, a couple of years later, well, the AIDS epidemic was already like kind of like starting to happen within the community, and that not notable cases of HIV/AIDS, but it was certainly on its way. But I have to speak too about the certain amount of power and liberation that gay men had at that time in New York City. I think Mayor Koch was the mayor at the time. I think there was some rumors that he was maybe closeted gay. Look, I'm not going to go into that. But there was a certain power that gay men were attaining in New York City. There was certainly a visibility and a vibrancy that gay men we had at the time. And we weren't beaten down by AIDS, where AIDS added such a thick layer of shame to the gay community once AIDS was impacting our lives. We were we were more confident and a lot less shame and powerful. And I miss that too. I miss the power and the confidence that gay men had at the time, in that era, before AIDS, pre-AIDS. And so today, I don't know, the reading kind of made me sad and nostalgic. And then also sad and nostalgic, more sad and grief and loss and trauma to the gay community, the queer community that we lost because of AIDS after all of that freedom and liberation and sunbathing down by the pier. I remember going there and just men just sitting there with their privates, just hanging out, just dangling out, sitting there catching sun. And no one said anything. We all just walked, and I'll take the bike and I'll take a ride down the pier and see all these beautiful hunky men. It was just so beautiful. It was so beautiful. I remember Sundays coming to the city, like for tea dance parties, and getting to the corner. I don't know what leather bar, but I just remember all the men in leather and how it felt like Christopher Street was just throbbing with sexuality and freedom, sexual expression. The Erotic Baker on Christopher Street and other novelty specialty shops on Christopher. It has such a charm, such a feel that was just so beautiful. I miss all that. I miss all the friends that were unfortunately affected by AIDS, that have passed, that are no longer with me. I was the only one that survived out of the group. I was eating my sex. I was eating my sex. I would say that if those places were still around today here in New York City, with the confidence that I have as a trans woman, it would be good for me. I mean, it was free. It was free to go to these buildings. It wasn't like a sex club or something, or a sex party. You have to pay $30 and go all the way to Brooklyn. No, honey, that was right here. I think with the freedom that I feel now and the confidence and having sorted out my gender identity with my gender dysphoria, body dysphoria, girl, I'd be there and catching a whiff, of all the sexuality and the freedom and the expression. And what I can recall again is like the level of there's shame, more shame queers have today, I think. I'm just speaking for myself. And back then, there wasn't so much shame. The AIDS thing broke us down and added more shame. It's already hard enough being queer, being gay. And then when the AIDS epidemic hit us, like we were also feeling so shameful. And I can speak for myself, feeling shame, feeling guilt, trauma that my friends were passing away left and right, and the fear, and then the public's perception of gay men and how we were like ostracized more and shamed more, and the religion factor and the Anita Bryant and all of that stuff that went on after, and all the others. But I want to speak to sexual liberation versus sex addiction. And there's a big difference. I feel a sex positive is a good thing. And I certainly don't want to be afraid of having sex because of STIs. And I'm not afraid anymore. Like I don't have that shame that I used to have. It's like the same thing as if I was afraid to eat a meal because I'm going to get salmonella or something, whatever, some foodborne illness through eating food. I don't know. I just wanted to talk about this. I just wanted to bring up the era. I'll read something that I did look up a bit. on Google. In 1979, the abandoned piers along the Hudson River in Greenwich Village were a significant and vibrant hub for New York City's gay male community. They served as an informal sanctuary where men socialized, sunbathed, sometimes nude, cruised for sex, and expressed artistic freedom in an unregulated, semi-public space. It was really beautiful. The scene in 1979, location, the primary piers for this activity were piers 34, 45, 46, 48, and 51. Atmosphere. The piers offered a rare sense of freedom and community in a gritty, dilapidated, like I said, environment that lacked the polished, manicured feel of today's waterfront parks. This unregulated space allowed for a spontaneous atmosphere that was an essential part of queer history in the post-Stonewall era. Activities range from casual socializing and sunbathing to anonymous and semi-public sexual encounters. It's quite beautiful, actually. A memorable part of the experience was interacting with passengers on the passing Circle Line boats. How fun. Arts and culture. The abandoned structures and debris also attracted avant-garde artists like Alvin Baltrop, Gordon Matta Clark, and David Winjanowicz, I pronounced that wrong, I'm sure, who used the piers as a backdrop for their work and created murals in the space. The area was a gathering spot for a diverse population, including sex workers, transgender women, and queer youth of color, although many accounts from the time focus on the experiences of white gay men. I'll read just one other paragraph, which refers to the historical context. The piers became a central artery for queer life following the 1969 Stonewall riots on nearby Christopher Street. They were abandoned due to the decline of the commercial shipping industry and were not redeveloped into the parkland seen today as Hudson River Park until much later. I'll read one more. The sense of freedom at the piers in 1979 is often remembered with a bittersweet reflection as the shadow of the AIDS crisis would soon loom over the community in the following decade. So I'll say this again, that I'm really glad that Zohran Mamdani and his talks as he was campaigning, he brought up Sylvia Rivera, excuse me. Sylvia Robinson is from Sugar Hill Gang, Sugar Hill Records. She was fierce too. But she was not gay. Queer. Not that I know of. So Zohran Mamdani brought up Sylvia Rivera and Marsha P. Johnson, who I heard back in those days. I was kind of following Marsha P. at the time. Not so much Sylvia Rivera, but the death of Marsha P. Johnson. Her body washed up on the pier. She was murdered. They say that murder was never solved. But Zohran Mamdani brought it up in one of his talks about the vibrancy and the cultural diversity of New York City and these individuals who we don't talk about and we don't think about and we don't remember much anymore. Well, maybe we do now more. That's the dinosaur era. And I'm 66, and I was one of those folks who's now a dinosaur today. I miss it. And so I end with my thought too today when I had that reading about acting out places and remembering the piers and remembering my friend who took me there. And the song that Sade has of Maureen. She talks about a friend that she had, Maureen, who was really pretty. They were in a small town, and Maureen was fast, and Maureen was gorgeous, and Maureen was always checking out the dudes and the guys. And I guess the writer of the song, maybe Sade wrote it. Sade was more low key, always, kind of asking Maureen, where'd you get the money for that dress? And she's like, And Maureen, going to parties with Maureen, and Maureen's always checking out the dudes, hoping the good-looking ones can also dance. She was kind of like the more confident, sexually free person. And my friend Carl, who used to take me to these places, introduced me to all of these queer places. the queer life in New York City. He's no longer with me, and I miss him terribly. He was my Maureen. So that is what I'm going to conclude with on this video. I just wanted to give homage a bit to the queer life, the gay life, more the gay life. It wasn't queer, it was more gay, male gay. Well, it was some queerness there with the transgender folks and the transsexuals and the sex workers that were there. But I miss that all. I miss that all. I miss the Venus extravaganzas and the Octavia St. Laurents and the Carmen extravaganzas and all the leather men and all the naked queer gay men sunbathing. I just miss the scene. I miss the scene. And so, for whatever it's worth, that's what this video is about. If you remember those times, you want to talk about it, leave a message here, leave a comment. If you think I've made reference to sexual addiction in a glorified way, I apologize, but there's a thin line between sexual liberation and sex addiction. And so I'm not advocating sex addiction. I'm recovering from that as well, because my addiction is now in my 60s, once I got cute. Once I got gender correct for me, that's where I want to like act out and go to hotel invitations through Grindr, right? A cisgender couple finds me pretty. Oh, we're vacationing in New York City. Would you like to join us for a little rendezvous in our hotel? I'm like, oh, sounds exciting. And that's what made me address my sex addiction. Started coming up. It was always there. I was just pushing it down using food. Once my transgender status became clear and firm, once I was able to stop traffic, yeah. I was like, oh, Maureen. All right, y'all. So listen, use your mind, your brain, same thing, your body wisely. And whatever you do, be safe. Just be safe. Just be safe, you know? And don't have shame about anything like that. So, all right, y'all. I'm hungry. I'm gonna go get something to eat. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope you got something out of this. All right, y'all. Take good care. Stay safe. Trans Mama always loves you, whether you're sex addiction or sexual liberation. It's probably a little bit of the two. It's always the case. But Trans Mama loves you. Mwah. Mwah. Mwah.